Hi guys, and welcome back to the Playroom. Today we're going to take a look at a commando in the Lupo Battaglione of the Decima MAs. The Decima Flotilla MAs, also known as La Decima or X MAS, which is Italian for 10th Torpedo Armed Motorboat Flotilla, was an Italian flotilla with Marines and commando frogmen of the Regina Mariana for the Royal Italian Navy. The acronym MAS also refers to various light torpedo boats used by the Regia Marina. Decima MAS was active during the Battle of the Mediterranean and took part in a number of daring raids on Allied shipping. These operations involved surface speedboats, human torpedoes, and frogmen. During the campaign, Decima MAs took part in more than a dozen operations which sank or damaged 5 warships totaling 78,000 tons and 20 merchant ships totaling 130,000 tons. The Decima MAs was a successful Italian Navy elite naval assault unit, scoring several major successes against Royal Navy warships in 1941 through 1943. They sank the cruiser HMS York in Suda Bay and crippled the battleships HMS Valiant and HMS Queen Elizabeth in Alexandria Harbor. But that was all about to change. In 1943, after the Italian dictator Benito Mussolini was ousted, Italy left the tripartite pact. Some of the Decima MAs men who were stationed in German-occupied northern and central Italy enlisted to fight for Mussolini's newly formed Italian Social Republic, or the RSI, and they retained the unit's title, but were primarily employed as an anti-partisan force operating on land. Other Decima MAs men in southern Italy or other Allied occupied areas joined them. Now, our figure was produced by Twisting Toyz in the early 2000s, and he represents a member of the Lupo Battalion at the Battle of the Senio River in 1944. His uniform is in the tela mimetico pattern, and here's an example of the real thing right here. This pattern was used until, believe it or not, the late 1990s. The Decima MAs wore a blue painted metal shield. This featured a large red X below a skull with a rose on its teeth. And here's their distinctive collar insignia, a sword over top of a wreath with the word Italia on it. And here's a nice view of the Decima MAs beret badge. He's outfitted with binoculars, a 3-cell cartridge pouch, the M33 helmet. He has a sidearm, the Beretta pistol, and his weapon is the M38 Beretta submachine gun. And here's a nice view of that helmet. His gas mask bag is being used to carry hand grenades. One of the first Marine infantry battalions of the Decima MAs to be created, the Lupo Battalion, was formed in January 1944 at the Decima MAs barracks at La Spezia. Its commander was Captain Corrado Di Martino, a decorated submarine commander. He was assisted by Lieutenant Dante Strapoli, a tough black shirt battalion veteran. Those that were accepted into the Decima MAs were allowed to retain their own previous uniforms and equipment. The Seglieri were allowed to wear their unique plumes and fez. Alpini were allowed to wear their headgear and penne. San Marco Marines were allowed to wear their naval uniforms. The most popular uniform in the Decima MAs volunteers was the 1941 wool tunic and loose trousers as worn before 1943 by the Italian paratroopers. The Battle for the Senio, which occurred in April 1945, was a turning point in the last stage of the Italian campaign. This action was part of the Operation Grape Shot, the Allied spring offensive to break through the German Gothic Line defenses and into the Po Valley. The Senio River, which has steep flood banks and open surrounding countryside, had been prepared by the German forces as a strong defensive position. On the 9th of April, the Allies launched a heavy air and artillery bombardment, followed by coordinated attacks by infantry formations. The British 8th Army made a push in Italy to shatter the German lines across the Senio and Salerno rivers to forestall and escape into the Alps. The 5th Corps, with the 8th Indian and 2nd New Zealand Divisions, spearheaded the attack near Lugo. The strongly defended Senio was the main challenge. The Lupo Battalion drove from Milan to the Apennines, digging in on the slopes of the Reno River Valley, only to be sent in the plain along the River Senio between Fusignano and Alfonsine. And so began 2 long months of trench warfare, where the Axis fortified positions along the high banks of the river, subject to incessant Allied shelling, strafing and bombings, and attacks by Allied combat patrols, tank destroyers, and tank direct fire, were fiercely defended by the Lupo Battalion commandos and the adjacent German units, including the Waffen-SS Grenadiers of the 16th SS Panzer Grenadier Division. The successful Allied crossing of the Senio River was a major milestone, resulting in a swift collapse of German defenses in Italy and playing a role in the eventual Axis surrender in that region. Well, the battle didn't go well for the Lupo Battalion. After retreating to Padua with other units of the Decima MAs, they surrendered with honor to the New Zealand tankers of the B Squadron of the 20th New Zealand Armored Regiment on April 29, 1945. Well, that's enough history for today. But you can stop back anytime. The playroom's always open. Big Sarge is always here. And we'll see you then.